All right. How you doing, everyone? Be Elite Live today. Kind of squished in the corner here, but I wanted to go through my board here and explain a couple things about leaky gut. So, the phenomenal thing about this board right now isn't what's on it. It's actually that I have to write backwards because I'm on selfie mode, because I want to see comments and I want to see people and I want to answer questions. I'm on selfie mode. So I have to write all this backwards. So I think I should really get a round of applause for being able to write backwards. You know, I think it's phenomenal that I can do that. And if there's anything that's spelled wrong or looks weird, it's because I'm writing backwards. Anyway, I want to talk about leaky gut, and we've heard it so many times, sometimes so much that I don't even want to talk about it. But I'm talking about it today because many people really don't grasp what the hell is that? Like, you just keep saying that word, leaky gut, leaky gut. And what does that mean? I need to get a picture of it. I need to understand. And why is this so important to me? You're just telling me not to eat things because it's the new fad diet. And that's a lot of people think it is the new fad thing to do. And it'll go away like everything else. And it's actually not a fad at all. When you look at leaky gut, there's a couple things. So these are mucosa membranes. So in our intestines, we have things called microvilli. Love my drawings. My drawings are awesome. And when you look at microvilli, these little fingers there help absorb all the nutrients and pass it through to arteries, vessels, so this is our bloodstream here. So nutrients come through, and that's how we get a lot of the food and nutrients we absorb goes right to our bloodstream. So when we have stress and we have things like, one of the biggest things that have these problems is when you look at things like gluten, food that makes us sensitive, corn, dairy a lot of times, they will cause stress in this center here. Without me getting too sciencey, they're usually all joined together. And you see they're kind of separate on this one here. And then the gluten's leaking through. So there's now spaces between our little mucosa membrane that are in our intestines. And when there's spaces, then food can leak into our bloodstream. And that's when we start having issues, problems, reactions. So we got our red blood cells there chilling out right there. We got gluten kicking over here. We got some bacteria, different organisms there. We got toxins we get from stuff. I'm going to talk about that. And that kind of leaks through as we eat these foods. The permeability or the intestines get mucousy and separated. Stress can do that as well. Tylenol, not using specific words, but NSAIDs, pain medication, anti-inflammatories, all these things will cause separations in there. And then those things can leak through. And then we have them in our bloodstream, and that's when we start having immune response to them. Our immune system starts going after them, and that's when the fun thing begins. When people go, who cares? Why, what's the big deal? Well, you'll feel the bloating. Those are signs of bloating. Those are signs of, you get your anxiety, all that stuff, because these are all adrenal issues. Once it goes in there, your bloodstream's going to go after it. So what are some of the biggest things that are actually we have to deal with this? So when we look at GMO foods, gluten, fruit, dairy, sugar, those are the big 3 or 4 that we try to look at. And the reason with that is when you have GMO foods, they've changed things a little bit, and they have things called lectins in them, okay? And lectins are great for when they're in plants. When they're in plants, they protect the plant from bacteria and other sources and other problems. But in our gut, they go after some of the sugar-feeding cells in our intestines, and actually, they're creating an issue. They're damaging them, And we ask ourselves, why do we have so many lectins in GMO foods or non-sprouted grains? Because they're preparing these things to deal with, bugs, pathogens, literally, protect them from bugs. So they have more lectin in them. But in our system, that actually causes more damage to our gut cells. And that's one of the reasons why this separation happens, and then we get that leaking there. So that's why most people say, well, I can eat bread all day long. I'm good with it. I got headaches, but that's okay. I don't have any. You know what? It's not about always being food sensitive. That's what I used to think as well. But the more you research it, this happens in everybody. So there's not a person that can handle this kind of lectin sitting in their system that doesn't damage their gut. That's why most of the time gluten isn't great for any of us. Okay, and that's a huge one. And genetically modified foods aren't good for any of us. Okay, so that's really how this happens there, and why that happens. So for a plant, it's great, but we're not plants, so having that in our system is going to raise a little bit of issue down in here. Okay, next we look at dairy. So dairy, a lot of us react to the A1 casein in it, and it's from certain kind of casein we get from the milk from certain kind of cows. So that's the reaction we get in there, and it damages it. And also, there's a lack of enzymes in pasteurized dairy. So in pasteurized dairy, without that lack of enzymes, then we have problems breaking down the sugars in it, and then we get inflammatory guts again. So our gut gets more inflamed again. So we have more problems. So I'm not a big dairy fan because I always think, yeah, you know, if you're a kid, if it isn't breast milk, you really shouldn't be having it. No puns there, no jokes. But yeah, if you want to have dairy, it's got to be raw. You know, and you're looking for an A2 cow or an A2 goat. If you want to know more about what A2 and A1 means, you can message me later. I don't want to bore people talking about that. So that's another reason why dairy can be such an issue for damaging in the gut there. Lastly, we go to sugar. And sugar is like, you know, probably the easiest one for us to all trip up on, okay? And we look at the sugar part of it. A lot of it ends up being creating yeast, or not creating, but actually feeding yeast, fungus, bacteria that actually come into our system and go, this is great, I feed off these things, I thrive off sugar. And when it thrives off, though, this bacteria will release toxins. And those toxins will actually go and then start damaging the gut massively. Okay, so start almost eating away at the gut lining. And then people say, well, geez, you know, I've been doing your stupid gut cleanse, Ken, for about 4 months, 9 months, 1 year. What's going on? I can only take so much glutamine. What's happening? Sometimes if you have too much sugar and those toxins release, they actually eat away at your gut. So it's not like it's just separated, they're actually destroying the cells that are there. So a lot of times that ability to heal takes so long. As I always say, scratch your knee 5 times in the same spot when it's bleeding. How long will it take for that to heal and be perfect again? And our insides are exactly the same. When it's damaged and eaten away constantly, how long does it take for that to heal? Once you go, okay, I'm on my diet today, like I've done before. Okay, I'm eating perfect today. Why isn't it working? Why is it taking me 6 months? Because of this. So this is kind of step 1 in what we're doing. And I just want to get a real picture of, okay, why is this important? Why do we get so anal about sugar and not having it? Because for some people, it's this. For other people, it's this. For other people, it's this. But for the most part, remember, we all are going to have these issues. They'll just play out different ways in us. So it's no more about a fad diet. This is about real science and how it destroys and damages us. So I'm going to continue this kind of series over the next week or two. And next week I'm going to be talking about what are 2 or 3 things that we can be doing to start healing and fixing the gut a little bit more. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you can see my lovely drawings here. Once again, I'm writing backwards so you can read this. So feel like you can praise me for that because I've never felt writing backwards was so easy now. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy your Friday. If you have more questions, send them below. Share this with any of your friends that can handle it. All the bagel eating friends. A bagel eating friend today. Have a great Friday, guys, and I'll see you guys next week. Enjoy March break.